Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I hope that whatever you've been up to today, Saturday, the 25th of February, cool, blimey, we're almost at the end of February, aren't we? And it's not a leap year this year, blimey, so we've only got 3 more days to go, innit? So, what have you been up to today, this afternoon? I do hope you've had a nice and pleasant morning. And I hope you're not just stressed out with whatever you got to do. I had to do my house chores and I decided to wash my hair because my child was out. And it just eaten into the time I should have spent making this video or finishing writing a book. I want to explain in a language that we can all understand how to do haikus. On the page today, I posted a definition, a sample, and explained what haikus are. I said haikus are the holy grail of postmodern poetry. Haikus came from Japan. In terms of the style, they are quite brief, succinct, that's to say they're to the point, they're unmetered and readable. And I did say that haikus are really loved in this part of the world, in Britain, but also in America, and obviously in other European countries. They are quite a big thing in postmodern poetry. Whatever period we're in, I don't know what you'd want to define it as. I think we're still in the postmodern period, aren't we? So, if you are a fan of poetry like myself, or the creative arts, and if you like reading short stories and poems written by other people, which I love to do, you might have come across haikus. When I was doing the sourcing for what this issue said to me, I only met one Sierra Leonean gentleman that attempted haikus. And I did say his name was David Manley. And I did say he'd lived abroad. He studied, I think, in Australia and worked with the American Navy. And so where he did creative writing, it wasn't in Sierra Leone. And boy, oh boy, did he write good poetry. Some of which are included in what the seashell said to me. So I want to look at haikus because people are unfamiliar with them. And I want to leave with you, even if you never come back to a platform, even if you don't buy any of my books, even if you're not a fan of what we're doing here, I want to introduce and leave with yourselves new styles of writing, so that as a person in Sierra Leone, you might have a chance of making your work more tempting to publishers, and that you might increase your chance of getting published. Or you might just be confident enough to enter writing competitions. Speaking of which, our short story writing competition is open until April. Excuse the video that went out yesterday. I was cooking my child's dinner and doing the video at the same time. And I mistakenly said the competition closes on the 4th of March. It is actually open until the 4th of April. And as soon as I can, I'm going to read you that video and put out the correct information. So what is a haiku? The haiku is a 5-7-5-line poem. One line has 5 words. The second line has 7 words. The third line has 5 words. Japanese poetry is brief. They originally started writing a lot about nature, but even if you're not an eco poet or you're not a nature poet, you can write a brilliant haiku. I mean, David Manley's haiku was about apples, which he related to the curvaceous bottom that African women have. So when he used the word apples, he was using it as a euphemism for women with big bottoms. I shouldn't say big, I should say peachy bottoms. Apples and, peachy bottoms, not big bottoms, nice round bottoms, the way he described them. I shouldn't have mentioned that, but I'm not a fan, of big bottoms. I'm not a Kardashian fan. But obviously, our males, where we're from in Africa, seem to like women with big bottoms for some reason. So he's written a poem about the female form. And that's what his haiku was about. So, a lot of people are put off because when we talk about haikus, we have to look at form. Again, I mentioned the female form, and it's interesting how David used a haiku to talk about the female figure, the shape of a woman, and he used a form of poetry to do that. I thought that was quite clever. Now, I've said a haiku has 5 lines, and then he has another 7 lines, and then he has another 5 lines, and that's one stanza. So, if you were quite good at counting your meters, you would think that I'm going to talk about pentameter or an iamb or an iambic foot, but I'm not going to use any language that's going to confuse yourselves. Basically, we're just going to use any random words to make up 5 words that we stress. I want to define what stress is, because this is what people don't understand. By stress, we mean the part of the word that you emphasize. We emphasize syllables in a word when we speak. This is now moving into the domain of phonology. When you speak a word, you emphasize in the syllables. When you're stressing a word, there is more emphasis on that part of the word where you're stressing. You stress the syllables. What are syllables? Syllables are the sounds that make up a word. How do I explain this? I'm going to use the word Humpty, because when we were at school, we used basic words like these that had rhythm and rhyme to them, so we would be able to learn basic sounds. So the syllables in Humpty are hump and T, the 2 syllables. If you were clapping as I spoke, as I said the word Humpty, you'd have gone clap for hump and clap for T. So where you have raised your voice, not shout, where your intonation, that's how you speak, where it goes up an octave, where you can hear it higher, I've gone hum, T. You can hear hum and T. They're both stressed. So that's the pitch. Pitch is when you hear something louder. I don't mean when you shout. Pitch is just a louder sound, isn't it? When you talk about someone with a high-pitched voice, you can hear it's quite high up on the octave, isn't it? It's quite high up. It doesn't mean that the lady is shouting. You might say ladies have high-pitched voices, and that's how you can tell it's a lady speaking. Okay, so hump is one stress, one clap. T is another stress, another clap. So when you go hump, T, dump, T, I've got 4 claps, haven't I? That gives me 4 stresses. So if I was to write a haiku, in fact, I will go hump, T, dump, T, sat. And that's my first line. So I'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 claps. And that's why I've stressed the word. I've got my syllables. So with haikus, we're counting the stress patterns. And it's the stress that makes up the rhyme scheme. It's not metered. The structure, though, is made up of the stress. Haikus are unmetered. There is no meter in haikus. What does that mean? That's to say that there are no rhyming words. Rhyming words are words which sound the same at the end of the line or inside the poem, like an internal rhyme. For example, if I say, I'm going to use my example, Humpty and Dumpty, they have the same sound, don't they? In a haiku, that's not what we're looking at. They're unmetered. It's free verse, but it's got form in the sense that it's some kind of formal style. Okay, so I'm going to try using British pronunciation, which will differ from your pronunciation when you speak your beautiful language. But I'm going to show you how a haiku might work for myself. And I'm going to count the number of claps that I have so you can see what I have broken up the word to make up my haiku. The title of the poem is Submission Rules. That's not part of the haiku, it's just the title. So let's forget about the title. Pay in obedience. Corruption still unchallenged. Leaders deified. Africa bows, whips, plummets down, progresses ladder into damnation. I'll probably read that again. Okay. Pay in obedience. Corruption still unchallenged. Leaders deified. That was my first stanza. Next stanza. Africa bows, whips, plummets down, progresses ladder into damnation. So those were my stresses. Okay. And I'm going to read it normally now so you can hear what it sounds like. Pain obeys, corruption still unchallenged. Leaders deified. Africa bows, whips, plummets down, progresses ladder into damnation. With the haiku, every line makes sense. Every line is a standalone line. It doesn't have to flow into the next one to make sense. So pain obeys makes sense. It's a phrase. Corruption still unchallenged makes sense. Leaders deified makes sense all by itself. Africa bows, semicolon, whips makes sense. Plummets down, progresses ladder is a standalone phrase. Into damnation is a standalone phrase. So, in haikus, lines stand alone. So, they stand alone as phrases which do not have to flow into the next one to complete the sense of what you're trying to say. I can say, Africa bows, whips. Makes sense. I mean, it's a line that makes sense in a poem. So again, with haikus, we're looking at stand-alone sounds, that stand-alone lines that make sense when you read them by themselves. So let me recap what I've just said. I said the haiku is a 5-7 5-line poem structure. I said it's a Japanese type of poem. And I said that it's brief, it's animated, it's easy to read, so I said it's readable, and I said it's succinct. That's to say, it's to the point, it doesn't have a lot of unnecessary words. Did you notice that it was in modern English as well? Did you see how easy it was to understand? So this is the sort of poems that get published nowadays. Are you going to try a haiku? Did you understand what I said? Please leave your questions below. Thank you.